Hello, my name is Kat Fowler. Today I'll be summarizing Chapter 4, Does Punishment Work? From Coercion and Its Fallout, written by Murray Sidman. Does punishment work? The author argues the main reason we use punishers is to control others. For example, you get a traffic ticket or a fine for a traffic violation. If you break the law, you go to jail. Punishment discourages us from doing the behavior again. If we punish someone or something for demonstrating a given behavior, they will act differently, right? The author claims we use punishment to stop or prevent certain actions that are bad for the person, other people, or the community. But does punishment really end undesirable behavior? The author suggests that there are two ways to punish. One is to remove positive reinforcers. For example, taking away a cell phone from a misbehaving child. And number two, apply negative reinforcers. Examples of this would be spanking or scolding. The author also suggests that we punish to control others. We also punish to stop or prevent hurt, deprivation, insult, or whatever displeases us. Others also punish to control us, stop or prevent deprivation, insults, or whatever displeases them. In my mind, I picture two countries at war pushing up against the same wall with the same punishers present. We see examples of punishment in our everyday society through laws and social customs. But is it okay to control our actions this way? The author questions if there is any other way, and if this is the best way. Many times when faced with punishment, we hear phrases regarding justice. Is justice only regarded with punishment? When watching justice being served to others, we may feel secure, but when the same concept is applied to us, it quickly becomes a threat. Sidman argues that this threat provides self-control. Let's talk data. What data is present surrounding punishment and its effects? Correlation does not prove causation. Two events may occur at the same time, but be independent of one another. Behavior analysts can study behavior piece by piece in a laboratory setting, figuring out each part and how it works independently, and then putting pieces together to see how it works and interacts, such as a puzzle. On page 77, Sidman states that, as it turns out, laboratory data strongly supports the position that punishment, although clearly effective in controlling behavior, has serious drawbacks, and that we desperately need alternatives. How does one study punishment? Two things are needed. 1. A subject with an ongoing table activity, which must provide a reliable and steady data. If need be, reinforcement is a strong tool that can be used to manufacture behavior baselines. And number 2, with reliable behavior, we can punish instead of, or in addition to, give reinforcers when reliable and steady behavior is demonstrated. The book gave an example of a rat trained to hit a lever to obtain food. This would be an example of the steady and reliable baseline needed. In this case, food is a positive reinforcer. It maintains the behavior. Behavior analysts are to use techniques proven valid, such as bright lights or loud sounds. Punishers must also be easily overcome. For example, you can cover your eyes to bright lights or your ears to overcome loud sounds. Electric shock is also a common punisher. It can be used in two ways. 1, as a negative reinforcer to terminate behavior, and 2, as a punisher to act that acts to produce them. A benefit of electric shock shows that it can be fully controllable and at the push of a button. There are a few questions one must ask when using electric shock. What is to be gained? Does the anticipated relief of suffering outweigh the suffering? It must also meet scientific standards and satisfy technical standards. It is important to note that the amount of punishment determines what the punishment does. Be sure to take into account the total number of punishments, intensity, and duration. So if we go back to our rat example, a shock was added with the food, and the rat temporarily stopped pressing the lever after it was shocked. Eventually and slowly the rat began pressing the lever again to get food. In this case, the positive reinforcement of food outweighed the punishment. The rat had no other lever to press to obtain food. It pressed the lever, obtaining food and allowing its survivor. We can compare this example to our earlier example of lawbreakers being punished by going to prison. When they get out of prison, many return to criminal activity as a means to obtain their reinforcer. What other levers do they have to press? When punishment competes with positive reinforcers, the positive reinforcer wins. Sidman then moved to what I've decided to call phase 2, adding a chain connecting to a platform with food. So this was the example given in his book. What if when the temporary halt in behavior is placed with training for a new behavior? If the behavior is so strong that the subject doesn't try anything else, then what? What if we change the intensity of the shock and increase it each time the rat presses the lever to get food until the shock becomes the positive reinforcer? In the example given, this is what happened. In this case, the shock was then used to train the rat with a new behavior. How to pull the chain. So on the right-hand side, you can see the picture of the rat pulling on the chain. Behavior involving self-destruction tendencies can be found in psychopaths and children that hit, bite, or scratch themselves to obtain attention. The author argues that the two main reasons that they use punishment are to administer very strong punishment or to give a mild punishment to temporarily stop punishment. During that period, teach a new skill or desired behavior. The author further adds that it is important to note that other changes also take place to those punished. Those other changes must not be overlooked. He argues that those other changes make punishment unwise, undesirable, and fundamentally destructive method of controlling conduct. So that brings me to my discussion question. What consequences have you observed when you or someone else has administered a punishment? So my example, I witnessed a student fall asleep in class, and the teacher gave the student a detention for falling asleep in class. Initially, the student made an effort to not fall asleep by sitting on a yoga ball or asking to get a drink of water or move about the class. But eventually, the student began to fall asleep in class again, and the student began to fall asleep more and more, and each time would continue to receive that punishment of the detention. So I look forward to reading your responses. Thanks for listening. Good night.